Hey, everybody! Welcome back to another episode of what the hell do we call this now, Tran? Let me see.
There's something wrong
The
with Mayo.
filmmaking production diary, but our title of our film is called "There's Something Wrong with Mayo." I should just say "There's Something Wrong with Mayo." Yeah, a filmmaking blog. So, our journey. So, my name is Miguel Ortega, and this is my lovely co-host Trama,
Hello, everyone.
and we are documenting the making of a short film in Unreal Engine. Look who it is, troublemaker herself, Netbug, and what is Cocon Kid?
Con Kid?
Con Kid.
I don't know.
How's everybody doing? So yeah, we're just documenting the making of a short film in Unreal Engine. We did this last year. We did another short film called The Voice in the Hollow. What about The Voice in the Hollow? Tran, tell me something.
What about Voice in the Hollow? Well, we finished it. And
Yeah.
now we're on to our second one. And since we started the second one pretty soon after the first one, we didn't have a title and all that. So you guys are all getting a glimpse of right from the very beginning. When we started
From the very beginning, yeah.
Yeah, when we started the stream for Voice in the Hall, we already had put in several months of work. So when if you see our first episode on it, it already had the characters done.
This was Voice in the Hollow on the left. We got the cover of 3D World magazine last week.
Very cool.
Pretty awesome. Yeah, we're super happy about that. That was like the best birthday gift ever. So thank you, 3D World and James, for that. And Lynette and Alex Alvarez from Gnomon that all helped us with this. So it was awesome.
Yeah.
So that was The Voice in the Hollow, African Fable, all done in Unreal. And then we're now working on this one, which is a story about a colony of creatures called the Threadlings. They're all made out of fabric, and their war against the evil moths that want to eat them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are real problems.
Yes.
And again, if you watch our first stream, that's like not our first stream, but maybe the first one for this one. It's inspired by our real life struggles. So
we hate moths.
we have Persian rugs and like antique things, and the moths are destroying them in our house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what inspired this. Hello, Ivan and Netbug. They were also really stressed.
Very stressed.
We were very stressed. I was very stressed.
Oh, yeah, we were very stressed on that one. At the end, we probably sounded like we needed therapy. Probably did.
Yeah.
Oh, there's going to be moth carnage.
Yeah, on this one.
Yeah. So anyway, Tran, you wanted to...
Yeah, so this is what... I'm just trying to adjust shadows. Maybe soften it. This is what...
This is Mayo.
Yeah, this is Mayo, and he's almost done.
His hair is not done.
His hair is actually going to be real hair. So the geometry on top is just like... It's literally just a geo for like temp. And
so
then
zoom into because he just looks really great when you show the details.
The computer runs slow when I turn the shadows on, so it's going to lag a little bit. But
let it sit because it needs to, like, don't rotate it all the time. There you go. Or else it literally just looks like a blur.
Oh, I see, because of the streaming, right?
Yeah. So you don't see any detail. It just looks like it's one color.
Okay. So I'll do rotation, let it sit. So you can see he's also made out of fabric. And he's like also very quilted. Right.
So they're asking, is it a similar project from the last one? It is, in that it's super messed up.
I don't know, but I don't think it's as dark though.
It's not as dark, but it's got its thing. Now this is much more our take on like the Dark Crystal, Labyrinth meets Carrie from Brian De Palma meets Star Wars. That's the mix that we want. So this little guy would be like the Carrie type character.
Yeah. Well, I think.
So I'm gonna say, I guess that you guys are in the same room. We are literally like
We could touch hands.
we're giving each other 5 right now. Yeah.
Yeah, we sit
Yeah.
right next to each other.
Yeah. So so Mayo is a special kid who may have powers that most people don't realize yet in the colony, and he doesn't speak very well. He just says 2-word sentences at a time. And then his best friend is Cot. You want to show Cot? Do you have I could show Cot. I have the little footage of him.
Yeah, you can show that.
Give me 1 second.
So this is what I have him so far. He is almost done. There's a couple things, like I'm not quite done with the pants or the shoes or his gloves, but he's very close. And then just to show, like, these guys are really made out of cloth. If I hide his head, you can see like his teeth, like cloth teeth.
Remember, let it sit. It just looks like a big blur.
Yeah, and I'm trying to zoom in.
Oh, I see.
So like those are his teeth.
Like it's still a blur. Like it really takes a while. There you go.
Okay. He's also got, like, in his design, like a Muppet mouth.
Yeah, like he's very much inspired by Beaker.
So like, well, these are like the Muppets. Like he just has a painted tongue.
Oh, so you guys can see the details fine, because even on my screen it looks really blurry. So if you could see it fine, then that's fine.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And then that's his teeth. They're all cloth teeth. But
Okay, great.
That's kind of the nice thing I like about this, that it's, if you don't want to build tongue, you don't have to have tongue.
Sell plushies.
Yeah. Sell
Well,
plushies.
Well, there's you may have noticed that I'm into toys, so that's probably the first thing I thought about. Yeah, it is blurry when rotating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me show you. This is Cot for those that have not seen him. So Cot is a mage. So they're like the Jedis that have to fight off the moths. So they have to do their incantations and their like Jedi powers. But since he's a stutterer, he has a hard time doing that. So he's not very good. He's not a very good mage. So he's kind of bullied and made fun of, and the only person that he has that protects him, and maybe overly protects him, is his friend Mayo, who there's something wrong with Mayo.
Well, there's kind of, I mean, in the story, it's called Something Wrong with Mayo, but
there's something wrong with everyone.
Yeah, all our main characters are
flawed.
Are flawed or have problems that they're trying to overcome.
Yeah.
So.
And the big aesthetic we're trying to go for on this is very much 1980s, like I said, Dark Crystal, the Jim Henson stuff. So really trying to get that look even on the film. So we are going to add grain like we did on The Voice in the Hollow, but we're bringing it from a 16 millimeter more to a 35, but still rough film look. So we still want some imperfections and whatever. But yeah.
Comment. Your mic gate setting is set to, or anyway, some problem with your.
Oh, that my mic thing is probably I just need to talk into the mic better. Yeah. So Tran, do you want to start showing some of this stuff?
Yeah. So I'll break this down of what I did. It's actually going to be kind of slow. Let me turn off shadows. Oh, these cute plushy boys. And I know you guys are probably going to get violent with them, like in The Voice of the Hollow. Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we want to make them cute. I think trying to make something cute is actually pretty hard. So let's see.
Yeah, he does have a peepee, by the way. So there may or may not be a scene of him running around naked.
Yeah, and that's why he has this. Like Cot doesn't. He's got a couple of seams. His body is like pretty simple, and it's kind of meant to be this way. Let's see, squish this side a little bit more. And then maybe I'll do some changes on him. But he's the boy. And let's look at his face.
Is that better, James? Is that better? Okay, cool. The audio was a little weird.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it was weird. I did feel like some kind of weird echo. Okay, so like I'll just kind of break it down and then turn off these layers. There's a question here. Did any of you watch the unrecord trailer? Lots of post-processing.
What is unrecord?
Yeah, what is that? I don't know what that is. Curious though.
Oh, I did see that. That's the one that looks really realistic of the guy walking in with a gun. I did see that.
You know what's funny is like, I never see myself as someone who does stylized work, and it's not because I don't like it. I just never did it, and now we've just been doing stylized stuff. so that's changed.
The mic is good now. Well, thank you, because you're the one that pointed it out, so thank you. So yeah, so this is Little Mayo. So
Let's give it a second when it updates.
You're just showing all the different passes.
Yeah, it takes a moment. It's very heavy. This first one has a lot of UDIMs, and that's why it's so slow. It has, you can count 9 UDIMs on it, which is very rough on my machine, and they're all at 4K. I do have like a decent graphics card, which is why I can handle it a little bit.
Here this month.
And let's take a look at a couple of things. So there's some new things that I put in here. So this is just his base texture. I'll hide that too. So now and let's hide his body. So I did some different techniques on Caught, and on this one I did also different techniques here. So his face has like a mixture of different types of cloth just to make it more interesting. It's basically one color, but this one is like a corduroy. So it's got like these kind of stripe patterns going on in it. And I felt like you can get into trouble with some of that, or just trying to get it to wrap around. I wasn't so sure about that. So kind of mixed it in with just like a flat one, which doesn't have the stripes. Now, the one thing that I did different is it's kind of tricky to get like corduroy or any kind of pattern laying on the face. Like it's, especially if, the corduroy has like basically like stripes. And it's very easy for that to look messy and weird, right?
And stamped.
Yeah, so he has like this kind of thing. And if you look, his face UVs, they're divided into 2. Right, so like that is like his eye socket right here, and that's the nose. And I have a big seam down the middle, so putting it on traditionally would have been pretty difficult because I would have a seam. So I'll kind of show you what I did do. Let's kill all this. Okay. What I did is I used a warp texture, and you can see there's like these green lines that are aligning with the face. So let me just reset that and put it all from scratch. Okay. So normally if you load up a texture, your projection here, which you probably can't see the words, that would usually be a UV. This one.
Chatty on fire. What's up, man?
This is RTX 6000.
What is that? Is that like newer than a 4800? It has to be, right?
I don't know. I think the 4090 is the newest.
4090, but then what is a 6000?
Well, I think we have GTX, no?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's a commercial grade. Okay.
It's probably better. So James is telling us that it's the commercial grade one. Yeah, it's probably better than even what we have.
Yeah, but this one is, I think the commercial grade is very expensive.
Yeah,
So
I don't, it might be overkill.
we're always using the game one. So what we tend to do is just get Alienwares. So I have one, not the latest one. I have 3090, and it's handling it pretty well. Now, if you look at this here, you can see it's being projected onto my UV window. And if you look closely, there are seams. Maybe it's hard to see in the stream, but it's not a good thing, right? So what you can do is create a warp projection. And let me just kind of hide the background, because I think it might be easier to see. Like some of these guides, yeah, it's easier to see. So once you set it to warp projection, it's sitting here in 3D space. Now, it took me time to get used to this. I think when it first came out, I was trying to use it, and it felt buggy. It might have been buggy, or it might have just been me, right? But it is actually pretty easy to use once you get the technique down. So what I will do first is kind of scale it to fit the face. And you can also rotate this. The problem I had was just lining it up to the surface, but there is this feature here where if you circle this button, what that does is it snaps it to the surface. So it's being covered. It's kind of like Maya Make Live. If I turn that on and I click, you can see that now it's snapping onto his face, but it's doing the whole plane. If I change this to edit vertice mode, it will just snap the vertice. Let's just hide his temporary hair. I can select these points now. It's funny. It's acting weird. Oh, there we are. It's just, I had a little hiccup. If I select these points now and I click, it's going to snap onto the surface. So you don't have to manually do that. And that's a nice feature, because it's actually really hard to just move them in the air. Right? So now I can do all those things there. And he has a hole in his mouth, so I might just do it to his lower jaw and snap that here. Now I have like this grid. And if I need more resolution, I can go up here and I can split it horizontally or vertically or crosswise. So I can add a loop along his face. Technically, it's like a loop or a line. And now I have more points, which just helps me align it. So I like this new feature quite a bit. So that's what I did a lot on a lot of stuff, right? Like on his face here. Let's see. Let's see. Server grade, yeah, those are expensive. They're hella expensive to consume much less power because data center scale, you can't. I see. I'm not upgrading my 3090 to fire hazard. I didn't know that was fire hazard. And is this similar to a tool you showed Mari for bending? No, this is completely different. So with Mari, Mari is still way easier to use when it comes to warping and bending. It's permanently baked in. So what's like kind of the nice thing about this feature is that it's never permanent, right? So you can come back at any point.
Still tweak it.
Yeah, and tweak it. I can change my mind, and it remains flexible the whole entire time. So I can change my mind about it, and it's never completely baked in. Whereas Mari, that's it. What you have is what you have. You would have to redo it, and this one allows me to have flexibility. If you ask me what I prefer, I still prefer the Mari one because it's still more control. Right? I don't care if it's baked in. It's also faster, probably. I think that having a lot of these can be really slow. in my opinion. Like, it feels slower, right? I don't have a lot turned on. So as far as, anyway, moving forward, as far as what I have on this guy, let's get rid of this, is I laid these all out, these patterns, which is probably hard to see because of streaming. And I think it, like, even if it wasn't streaming, it would still be difficult to see. Let's turn this on here. So what I do to try to emphasize, to make the textures pop out, because you see it's very flat here, it just looks like one color, is I take each section and let's turn them on because it takes a moment. There's just so many layers. I take each section and then I try to show like as if there's a seam here, and I do it in the color and the height. And there's a lot of layers that I'm doing that for. And what I do is, let's say this is the face projection. That's the mask for it, right? So I do like a clean mask. I place an anchor on there. And then that's the one, again, with that projection here. And then I just give it a height. So it pushes it out as if it's like plushed. You can see it in a normal map. So there's no displacements or anything like that. But basically, I have a height texture. And then within the cracks, what I'm doing is kind of darkening them a little bit. So it's pretty simple. Other things that I'm doing, let's turn them on. He's got a couple of color variations. And I also put like a wrinkle on his forehead.
That tiny little frown.
Yeah, it's right up here.
It's just to kind of push the fact that they're made out of fabric, but I guess it could be a brow wrinkle.
Let's see this question. What are you using for version control and backups? For Substance, not anything special, just save a lot. You need a big, we have to have multiple hard drives, so I always am working on a hard external, and then I have a backup for that external. And I save a lot of versions. The Substance Painter files are really huge. I think this one is like, it's 11 gigabytes.
Wow.
And that's really normal. Whether you are in Mari or Substance, your texture files can be really, really big. So, and I'll end up with several versions, and then those will be backed up because I don't really want to lose them. But anyway, his head is, again, pretty simple with some wrinkles here. The wrinkles were done very similar. So I got like a wrinkle map like this, right? And this was done with also with it should have been a warp projection. No, that was a UV projection. I guess I didn't. Well, it worked out. Yeah, 11 gig. That's not that bad from what I'm used to.
Yeah, like Unreal files are just ridiculous.
Our Unreal project was a terabyte, and we had to back those up.
Unreal projects are too big almost.
Yeah. Again, it was like a terabyte, and then we have to have multiple backups at different stages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is him and his clothing. Let's hide him. I have a delay. I'll actually say one thing that I got from doing Caught. So once I did Caught, which is the first character that you saw running, that's his name. And then we put him into Unreal, and then we turned on Path Tracer. I kind of like the idea of putting subsurface scattering on these characters.
Even though they're made out of cloth.
Yeah, because I do think it makes a difference. That there is light that's actually scatter in cloth. Normally, like you never do that. So someone could say, you're not supposed to do that. But it's like, well, it's real time. I could do it if I want to. I would never do this in a regular pipeline because if you put a SSS shader on it, it will render very slow. Now we are using path tracers, so there might be consequences to that. But at the very least, I would want the main characters to have subsurface.
We don't know anything about Path Tracer, by the way, so we might just be jumping into a total disaster. But
It's
that's how we
probably-
like to roll.
It's probably slower, but we're
Yeah.
gonna try to make it work. So it looks good. I mean, it looks really good. I don't want to not use it. So yeah, if I turn off subsurface scattering, I don't know if you can see a difference, Miguel.
Oh, you could totally tell.
Right?
You've shown this to me before. It makes a huge difference.
Well, I don't know if you can tell to the stream.
As long as you let it sit, you'll be able to see it.
So this one has no SSS active, and the shadows get really dark, right? And now once I have
Yeah,
it
it
on,
totally softens
it
it.
softens it. So we'll have a little bit of SSS, so the cloth feels softer. We'll also have like Fresnel on the material. I see here, massive difference even when blurry. Yeah, it takes away like this kind of game look. So we think that we can get hair working pretty well on the characters themselves, meaning the body, because we're expecting our rig to be pretty good. And so we can just parent hair onto the rig. With the clothing, it's going to be simulated in Marvelous, and so it will be a Olympic file, and really can't get hairs on that efficiently. So the clothing will try not to put any hairs on it. So I think that it really needs the subsurface. So if I show you, if you look at it without it,
I wonder if we could ask one of the Epic guys to help us with that.
yes, that would be nice. So let's turn it back on. So it's slightly softer, right? I don't know if you can see. Miguel,
Yeah.
with it on and off.
Yeah.
So now it feels, again, a lot softer. So if I look at his body here,
Yeah, they even say massive difference even when it's blurry.
yeah, just looks soft. And that kind of thing I really want on this thing. So we kind of, Voice in the Hollow was very harsh, kind of intentionally. Like the art direction was meant to be rough and embracing the harshness. I don't really like the harshness always. It's tough, but we were trying to embrace it. And this one, we're trying to,
Not embrace it.
yeah, we're trying to make it feel soft.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because look at them, right?
Everything in
The
this
soft
in their
guy.
world has to feel soft. That way, when the moths show up, and they're like the total opposite.
Yeah. So the moths will be angular and sharp.
That's also why we didn't design the moths ourselves. We hired someone else to do it because we wanted there to be a style clash.
Yeah. That these guys look really stylized. I mean, they are, but they're also just cloth people. So
Yeah.
And then in this world, there's like things that look real, like rocks and trees and everything else except them. I mean, if you just had if you made a toy and it was walking around, it would look like a toy walking around. So they were meant to kind of look like that. I'll show this last part here, which is the quilting on this. Oh, right here.
You do the best quilting.
Let's see this question. Interesting program, but can you do the same directly to ZBrush through Polypaint or texture protection? I would never do that in ZBrush. I think ZBrush is really good. I think
Polypaint is for concepting.
Polypaint is great for that. Look, whatever you want to start in Polypaint and then bring it in, but like ZBrush layers are not meant for texturing. Like you can see in my menu here, there's a lot of layers, right? I'm also seeing all my materials at once. I'm getting real lighting in that. I have real perspective camera. I also have subsurface scattering, right? I do think ZBrush is awesome, so I'm not going to argue whether ZBrush is great or not. I just don't think it's a texturing program, and I don't think they present themselves as a texturing program. The fact that you can do some kind of texturing in it is pretty amazing, because that's not what it's really for. But it would be hard to, like, for example, show me my base color, my height. This is just a program that's built for all those things. Metallic, normal passes, and that the fact that I can take care of it all at once, and I have my scattering pass. They're just two different things, apples and oranges. So.
Yeah, they would even tell you that
Yeah, I don't think they would say we are a texturing program, because I don't think that's how they see it. But the fact that they are a sculpting program that can handle some level of textures, and I use it for certain things, is already pretty awesome, right? It's like if I tried to like sculpt in here, it would be ridiculous to try to do that in here. It would just be a really bad idea.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hi guys, what's up? Hey, Marcus.
Let's see.
Hold on. Anyway, let me jump back here and kind of go through some of the quilting stuff. And I'm going to turn off Subsurface, so it'll be a little bit faster.
What do you think about Blender instead of ZBrush? I think they're two different programs for different purposes. ZBrush is just for sculpting, and then Blender
I know Blender has sculpting features.
Yeah, but that's not its main thing.
No, Blender is kind of like what's comparable to it more is like Maya or something like that.
Yeah.
ZBrush is extremely good at what it does. It's also industry standard. Everybody's using that. So yeah. I think it's really hard to take it off that, like to dethrone ZBrush. It's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, let me come here. And let's take a look at this here. So if I remove my quilting, okay, so this is what it looks like. So when I first bring it in, it looks like this, which is not very attractive. It has a couple of things that look strange to me and that I try to hide. And the reason why it looks like this is because this is a mesh straight from Marvelous, right? Now, this is probably not how like big pipelines want to work, but this is how small people like me want to work, because there's only just two of us. So I need to like work with my limitations and just kind of embrace certain things, right? So our cloth is made in Marvelous and it's simulated in Marvelous. So we're getting all our animation from it. You can re-topologize it if you want to. I just feel like you're asking for an extra step. In our pipeline, what I try to do, because it's just me handling the Marvelous stuff, just remove as many steps as possible. And I just want to remove re-topology as a step, because it would have to be re-topoled, brought in back into Marvelous, and then simulated on that. I don't think it does as well. So Marvelous simulates very well on meshes that are triangulated, right? So you can kind of see it's all triangles. And that's why some of the mesh has this kind of funny look. And what I mean is like you can see like this seam, right? And then you can see like these kind of black artifacts, and they don't really look very good. So my thing is to try to hide that by doing a couple things. So I'll just show them. So I try to embrace the fact that there is a seam here, right? So I have this pass, and it's just height. So it's it's also doing a couple of things. So it's giving me height. It's also shading it darker in the albedo. So it's height and albedo. And the way I make this one is it's just a very simple technique. I create something in my mask, like a generator. In that generator, I'll put in the UV borders. And this works extremely well if you're using a Marvelous pipeline, because your patterns are cut as if they were real, right? So wherever it's highlighting on my borders is like where I would want my seams to actually be. So that's a nice kind of thing. And then what you can do is you can adjust this distance. And for me, I have it pretty tight like that, right? So I don't actually have to paint this because it takes a long time to paint something like that. And this is what I went with, and then I blurred it. And then what I'm doing is I'm pushing it down, and I'm just saying, okay, let's just embrace the fact that it's there. Let's not try to hide it because it's not hiding very well, right? And then the second thing I do 2 levels of it. So I do one where it's sharper, and then I do the same thing, except this one's broader, and it's doing the same thing. It's pushing it. So it's small form and big form, kind of like sculpting. And then after that, I see like issues right here. It looks very, I don't know how well you can see that, Miguel. Like the artifacts.
I see it.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. So I'm trying to hide that. And what I do is I paint along the cracks there. So this is done by hand, which is a little bit slower. And then if I turn it on, you can see it just pushes it in. And then I have the same thing twice, right? This one's just broader. What I do that makes it faster, if you look at this one.
Like a Chatty on Fire said, you guys might need a no blender questions overlaid over your screen.
If you were like in previous streams, one of my responses I know was like, whenever I get a blender question, I feel like if I say the wrong thing, I'm gonna.
It's a politically charged question.
Yeah, it's like saying something as the opposite of your political belief, and I think that you know.
Yeah, you don't want to answer it.
I don't want to answer it, but I've said it once. I think Blender is awesome. It's really great. If you want to use it, the fact that I don't use it doesn't mean I think that it's not good. I think it's great. I just don't use it just because, and it doesn't mean that it's not good. There's so many tools out there, right?
It's really the equivalent of someone saying, if you speak English, why don't you speak French? French is so much nicer. Let's just talk in French. And you're like, but I don't speak French.
I don't know how to speak French.
That's literally how it is. It's like this, we don't speak Blender, we speak Maya. Is French better? Sure. But guess what? We don't speak French, so.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
Like I check out all the Blender videos all the time, and I'm always like, really impressed by what it can do. And there's never a moment I look at it and go, ew.
No,
like how dare Blender does this? Right? I'm always like going, oh, that's amazing.
I have no doubt Blender is going to become the future, but for us, it's just not what we use.
It's just not there yet. And the thing is, what we use are industry standard stuff, right? Because that's what companies are using, and we use that because that's our background.
Because
right?
we have to, if we work with other people, we have to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, and that's probably part of the reason why it's so hard to change that, because if you have everyone, like right now, if you said, don't speak English anymore, you can't speak English, just go learn a new language, and then you're telling like a whole society just to learn it overnight, it's really hard. So it's kind of like the same thing in our industry. This is what we use, this is the language.
Yeah.
Here's a question. I have a doubt. Why don't you use quadrangulate? Because it's actually really unstable in Marvelous. And then the triangles actually give you more details. So triangles, and it's really weird because I used to always want everything to be quads. So, when you're looking at it, it is a harder mesh to edit and deal with. So quads are easier, but Marvelous does a better job simming and working in triangles. And there is actually additional details. Other comment. I use Blender a ton now, and it has inspired me to learn French, and I have no support for for English
I
anymore.
like that.
Yeah, dude, we're not anti Blender. I think it's great. Yeah, I already know, like, here are professional people, when they're doing their projects at home, they're using Blender, and they talk about how amazing it is. So I have no doubt that it's awesome. But yeah, this is what we use. Anyway, so like check this out here. So let's say I paint these lines. They don't seem like a big deal, but no one wants to paint this twice, right? What I'm doing is using the same texture. So this is actually the same map, and I'm jumping between two different ones. So I have a layer here and here. Now, I could copy and paste it, but what I'm doing something is different, where I'm creating something called an anchor point, like this, and it literally looks like an anchor, right? An anchor point creates a link. So the moment you create an anchor point, let's say I make a new paint like this, and then on this paint, I'll draw a heart. There we go. So something like that. Now, if I put it above the anchor, I won't see it in here. So I'm jumping to my next layer. If I grab it and I throw it underneath here, now I can see it. So you can create multiple anchors, and the way you can load it into a different layer is you can create a fill, and if you go over here, you have an anchor menu, right? You just click on this gray box, and there's actually an anchor here, and you can find it based on the name. So I always make sure my anchors are named very well, otherwise I'll get very lost. And now you can see it's registering that. So with an anchor, if I come into this file here, where my original one is, and I draw a change or erase it, it's propagated up here, right? So it's constantly reading that, and that's the nice thing about it. So if I change my mind here, I don't have to like come back here and re-edit it. It's just going to propagate over. So I use a lot of anchors, which makes everything very slow. Question. I'm just kidding. I love Blender, but I need to use it, and I'm still, as well, I'm also learning Marvelous. They are all valued. This is my meaning to learn Substance too.
Yeah, Substance is pretty incredible.
Yeah. No, I know you're kidding. So, guys, just use whatever you want to use, as long as it works and it looks nice at the end. That's ultimately that.
All that matters.
Yeah. Well, on your independent stuff, if you're working, you got to learn whatever the company is learning, right?
Yeah, if you're a student, you should learn the industry standard stuff, or else you're gonna
Have a hard time getting.
you're gonna have a
work.
hard time getting a job.
Yeah. You know, and I get it. Like, people will probably go, let's say you're starting CG today. Like,
Which we have a really good friend of mine is in that exact same position. He's learning CG, and he doesn't want to pay for Maya, so he's like, oh, I'm just going to learn Blender. And the problem is, if he's only working on his own stuff, then that's going to be great. But if he wants to get a job, it might be harder for him.
Yeah.
Not might be, it will be harder for him.
Yeah, so that's just how it is. And I can see, like, aside from the cost, right? You know, when you look at Blender, it just looks newer. It's more streamlined.
They put features every 5 days.
Yeah, and it's constantly being updated. It has like a huge community that's very fanatic. There's all these like tutorials out there. If I was learning CG today and I didn't care about working in the industry, I would pick up Blender. But if I was picking up today and I go, I just want to work at X company, then I'd be like, well, I got to learn whatever. And then you just have to do whatever they want you to do. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's come back here. So what I did here is I blurred that out, and now I have these two. And again, all this is to embrace that geometry. The other thing I did here is I tried to put like these cloth creases. Now, when I show them like this, they look pretty crappy. At least I think it looks kind of pretty crappy. But it works once I have everything on. And I also used the warp texture on this to get it around, just so that it feels like it's wrapped, right? Same thing with the face. And then what I do here, let me zoom in, is I put a warp filter so that the seams or the folds are a little less straight, and then blur it, and then paint it out in some areas that I don't like. And then I have something like that. And I did the same thing in the back. Now I know that if I turn on Subsurface, and this is why I want to have Subsurface, and we'll see how much trouble it gets us in. I'm sure it's going to get us in some kind of trouble. It softens a lot of like the darkness, right? Let's turn it off for a second. Once I have this, I'll lay in this texture here. And give it a moment to update. You see there's a blue bar traveling across my screen. There is like an echo in here.
Is there?
I feel like there is an echo. So
Go to your settings for a second, and go to audio.
I don't have audio settings. I use your audio settings.
Oh, you do? Yeah, you do. Of course you do. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's coming from, I don't know where.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you keep on? Did you adjust the noise keep echo cancellation on?
Let's see.
Okay, so here's my texture here. And what I'm doing is quilting. And the quilts are based on these stripes. And there are two different layers. So I have two red layers. One of them is like this, and the other one's like that, right? And this is going to dictate my pattern. And this is literally being controlled by a stripe pattern that is laying across everything, across my UVs. So it's very simple. And then this one is going the other direction. And then these also have anchors at the top. Now, I don't actually like use these red ones. They basically are maps that are kind of like the masters. And they're only red for me to see it, but I can hide them. The point is to have the anchor that I can use into another layer. So now if I come in here and I turn this on, this one is reading that same one. Let's just hide it. And then what I'm doing with it is I'm just warping them so they're not straight, because they look really, they don't feel like cloth if the lines are super straight. And again, in this one, I use a blur slope. So warp will kind of do the same thing, or blur slope. And it's giving me kind of like the first step in the quilting. And I have the second one. So the second one is basically the same, right? It's just more broad. And what they're both doing is just affecting some of the color, but more of the height. And then after that is I have some stitches in my height, right? And I'll show you how I do the height in a second, or the stitch in a second. Okay. I got to come back and adjust these textures, actually, now that I'm looking at them. They don't look, I don't really know where this is sitting. So the stitch is what I do here. It's really simple. So I call up the same ones, and I put stripe patterns across it. I know I have a stitch here. Okay. So this is reading that anchor that was in the red one. And then I put a line texture on top that just produces dashes, and I don't know where it's sitting. So I'm just going to move it here. And this is being multiplied. So normally it looks like this. So it's literally a stripe crossing over here. And if I put it to multiply, it creates these dashes. And I could rotate this. And the thing that's nice about this is I can change the tiling, right? So it's all procedural. And then that could give me different number, sizes and stitches. I could also change the width, right? So I can have a lot of gaps or less gaps between them. And then what I do is kind of warp them. It's very subtle, just so they're not perfectly straight. And I do the same thing with the other direction, which is not updating yet. I think I broke something. Yeah, I definitely broke something. But that's how I'm doing the quilting here. And then once I turn on the SSS again, I feel like, some of these artifacts that looked pretty bad, they don't feel so bad. They're kind of still a little bit there, but it depends.
Not as noticeable.
No, they look softer. And that's why I really want the subsurface so much in this. So that's kind of the gist. What I did do, this was much faster than the first character. And the reason being is because
he's a much simpler character.
Well, he is simpler, but I also just have like smart materials. So what you can do, like let's say you create a system where you're using a lot of anchors and you put it in a group, right? Let's say I'm at my shoes. I'm going to the shoes because it's light. And then in this here, I start putting in textures I really like. Let's say this is like red. And I put in like, if you hand paint them, they don't propagate well. But if you use like textures, like say here, like these procedural ones, I look for also the stripe, because I'm using a stripe a lot for stitching. There we are. Right, I don't know why I have stripes everywhere, but I just do. And then once I create this kind of system, if I say this as a group, I want to name it, call it Tran Demo. I can create a smart material. And you can see it pops up down here. Now, if I delete it, I can drag it back and it comes back. What I did is I had a bunch of smart materials for cot. And then what I'm doing is I'm just bringing them over. So here is one specializing in stitching. Right, and you can see when I put it in there, I already have stitches. It doesn't look very good. It just needs to be adjusted. So they're kind of too big if you look at my UVs. But I can come in here and break down what I did here. And basically, what's probably too big is this outline. So I can say, let's make it smaller. And then turn on these passes again. It's not working everywhere, but you can see I have some stitching. And there are more now, and I can keep adjusting it. So it gets me done. Areas where I don't like, I just paint black and erase it, erasing the season. Let's see. Nice, thanks for stopping at every step of explaining the process. Yeah, I'm trying to explain for those who are interested. And then I just used Subsurface on a hoodie by chance for a character and it was impressive. It made it look softer. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to soften. You can put Fresnel, you can put fuzz. Fuzz is hard for us in Unreal because of our pipeline. So for us, it's going to be, we're going to not have fuzz, but SSS. I think most time people don't put SSS on the cloth because it's really heavy on your render. It's much slower to render Subsurface than like a regular material.
You mean like in V-Ray?
Yeah, it's really slow. It's like really, it's, I mean, the V-Ray shaders look really good though. Yeah. So that's it for this, you know.
Do you want me to take over?
Yeah, you can show what you've been doing.
All right, I'm going to show you guys stuff, but it's very much not exciting stuff. So we have the moths, and right now I am retopologizing the sculpt because we can't use displacements in Unreal, so everything needs to be modeled in there. We are obviously going to pick up some extra detail with normal maps, but for the most part, you can see everything there is in the actual model. So the other thing is this thing is going in a bunch of different directions. So the flow of things is pretty intense because it's going every way possible, right? So you have lines going this way and then this way and then that way. So this thing could be very overwhelming. Also, the eyes. I initially thought they would be very easy, but they're not placed geometrically in some sort of a pattern. They're kind of random, right? So if they were in a perfect grid, then it would be very simple to connect them, but they're not at all. So you can see areas like this, again, very much going in all kinds of directions, and everything is in the geometry. This is no displacement. This is not the ZBrush model. This is just polygons, right? So
yeah, and our silhouettes have to be very smooth. Like, you guys play video games. Like, you always notice on very round objects that they don't ever have enough edges. They kind of look like very faceted, and we can't do that. We want, and that's going to make the polygon heavier. Everything has to, silhouette has to be all smooth.
is there a way to join your project as a volunteer? Possibly. You could, if you follow us on Instagram and you send me a message, you could send us some of your work, and we'll take a look at it and see. Sometimes even people that are really good, we just don't end up using them, not because we don't think they're good enough, because sometimes they're amazing, but it's just what we might already have that part covered, or we might not even know, like for example, like the environments, how exactly are they going to look. We're not even ready to hand that off to somebody because we're trying to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so something like this, what I thought would be cool is like how does how do you approach topology, retopologizing something that is going in this many directions without losing your mind? And
It's like a nightmare.
yeah, I don't have a hard time with retopologizing. Like I find it to be very easy for me, and I find it to be, because I've done it for so many years professionally. Um, but there's a certain approach that I always take, which is very simple. And once you realize it and you do it this way, you realize it's not that hard. And it's just very simple. Do the hard stuff first. That's it. And then figure out how to connect it later. So if I look at a shape like this, I know I need to define this shape here and I need to define these guys here. So instead of trying to draw this down and figure out how to connect it, I completely ignore the rest of the model and I just go, okay, well, I need to define this hole here. So let's go in here and start putting in these circles, right? So I'm using just the quad remesher. And I'm just going to focus on these areas first, and then I'm going to figure out how to connect it to the rest of the model. And that way, I'm not figuring out like this really complex Rubik's cube. I will eventually, but right now, it's much easier if I could isolate the Rubik's cube to just this section, and now I just have to figure out how to connect it. And I've found that to be, for me, very easy to work this way. So I'll do that, and then I'll just pull this stuff in. Right? Again, this is going to be the most boring thing you've ever seen in your life, but this is just the reality of CG.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that.
So here I'll actually, since this is a hole, I'll actually not fill it in right now. And the reason is because I don't know how the flow is going to work. And I might use this to terminate edges or whatever, these are usually great spots to have ugly geometry inside of them. Like if you look inside of these, they're all quads, but like that one, like I'm not crazy about that, but that's, if there's gonna be a place to put ugly geometry, that's probably it. And I'm probably still gonna bring these down like so, and maybe even add another loop. But anyway, so let's focus over here. So, all right, so I know I need that there. So I know I need this over here. So let's just put a couple loops here.
Comment. It's great. I'm working on Re-topology and Creature right now. This is helpful and very interesting.
Yeah, just break it down into little sections. So if I'm doing a face, I'll retopologize one eye. Then I'll retopologize the nose. I will not connect them. Just get the nose to be good, get the eyes to look good, then get the mouth to look good, right? And then figure out how to connect it. If you do it that way, you're going to make your life much easier because you don't have to figure out how everything has to connect while you're also getting the topology on those areas to work. Trust me, it's much easier to get it to tie in after you've figured it out as individual components. So, okay, so we have that. So let's just do this. Let's just do this. We could put this here, put this here. So even here, I'm like, I'm not even though they're right next to each other, I'm not even going to connect these guys for now. I don't care. I'm just getting these shapes ready to go. I'm going to assume that I'm going to need something right here. It is going a little bit slower because the rest of the model is pretty heavy. Something I sometimes do is just kind of create a second model for these things and then attach them later. I could do that, but right now I'll just leave it as is. Let's just get out of this mode for a second and I'll delete history and then just go back to quad. Okay. So this over here, let's figure out how to get that flow. You can see this is butting up right up to that area there. I'm not worried about that. So let's just move these guys out of the way. Calm down. And then let's get this to flow in this direction. Like I said, this is going to be the most boring thing you've ever seen in your life, but
yeah, but I think people kind of like seeing it.
Yeah.
Then with quad topology, satisfying puzzle when it connects.
Yeah, the thing about this stuff,
advice.
what's great about re-topology, I think I was telling Tran this yesterday, is like when we're writing, for example, I kind of don't like it because you have to put all this focus on it. You do have to have a focus here too, but I'm watching movies all the time while I'm doing this or listening to South Park or something. Like you're constantly able to entertain yourself or distract yourself with something in the background. I can't do that if I'm writing. So I kind of don't like that as much. So, all right, so let's get these
The other
guys.
thing is like once you, in the beginning when you start out re-topology, it's kind of hard, but then once you've done it, you know,
a trillion times,
a lot
like
of
I have.
times, it's like you being used, getting used to it.
Yeah, and I kind of don't overthink it. Like I'm not like counting these guys. Like if I see that I'm closest, I'm like, oh, I might as well just position this guy kind of close to that. Okay, so we have this one here. We know we're gonna have to put that, but I'm not overthinking it. Like I'll put a point wherever I need to put a point and then figure it out later.
Yeah. What do you think about Topogun versus Maya?
Topogun, I used to use Topogun back in the days. You know,
Definitely used to use it. Yeah.
I felt that it started getting a little bit slow, and then once this was built into Maya, I didn't feel that it was worth having an external program. The other thing to always keep in mind, I mean, it doesn't make a difference to Tran and I because we're working on our own stuff, but you think that if you over rely on certain programs and then you go work at a company and you think, oh, it's Digital Domain or it's Tippett Studios, they're gonna buy me that license, and you'll be surprised the moment you realize, holy shit, these guys don't have any money. They're not gonna buy shit.
You'll be surprised.
They do not have money, and they do not like introducing new software into the pipeline at all.
And that's not just Digital Domain. That's in general most companies.
No, that's every company. Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely not just saying. I'm saying every company.
Yeah, I used to use TopoGun all the time, and then Maya built this in, and since then I haven't gone back to it. I don't know. I don't really actually know if TopoGun has improved a lot.
Yeah, I don't know a single thing. We were using it when version 1.0 came out. So
yeah,
we were all about it at Digital Domain. Funny enough.
Like if I saw a demonstration, or if someone recommended me, and they said, like, check this out, look, there's all these new tools, I'd be like, oh, maybe you should use it again. But we haven't revisited it since then.
So you can see here, for example, you can see that this has 1, 2, 3 rows, and I want to continue this. I'm not going to continue it. I'm just going to create another cube here, right? And then just kind of do this. Oh.
Here's a comment. Rest in peace, Clarice.
Yeah, Clarice died, huh? That's another example. Like Clarice is, trust me, much bigger than TopoGun. You over rely on these external programs, and then that happens, and you're just screwed.
That sucks.
I remember when Apple bought Shake and just discontinued it. That was like crazy, because that was.
Why did you guys buy it then?
That was the only freaking compositing program the entire industry was using. Like the entire industry was. It's like somebody buying Photoshop and they just discontinue it. Like, what the hell are you talking about? That was the only program every VFX company used, and from that, Nuke came out. But there was a moment where everyone was like, "What the hell?"
There was a dead time for many years before Nuke came out, though, right?
Well, Nuke was being developed at Digital Domain all along, but it wasn't like commercially available, and so a lot of people were still holding on to Shake. They were like, "Oh, this is great," but that's crazy to buy like a true industry monopoly software and then just kill it. That's pretty intense.
I don't know why they did that. It seemed really mean.
Well, what they did is yeah, that's so weird. But they basically just applied all the tools inside of their other program. So they used the technology but didn't kill the software, which is just super messed up.
What happened with Clarice?
I don't know what happened to Clarice, but
I mean, like when Clarice came out, I was like, oh my god, because kind of the one thing that I felt like they were promoting, or things that caught my eye at least, was like how much faster it could be. Like you could bring in, it had a referencing system for geometry, right? And it was like a built-in instancer. So you can bring in decimated meshes that were like millions of polys.
Ironically enough, very much like what Unreal does.
Yeah, it is. So you could bring in like millions of polys, and it would just fly. It would just feel really fast. And every time you duplicated a mesh, what it would do is instance that mesh. So it was referencing in, so it wasn't like imported into your scene. A really, really dense, like say, rock or mountain. And then every time you duplicated that, it would instance that. So it was a lot faster. So you could have like a really giant scene, like with billions of polys, and you couldn't back then, your comparison, like you're talking about Maya or pretty much any other software like 3D Max or whatever, you can't really do that with speed. When you get to that level in Maya and you're trying to work with billions of polys, you can't actually display it in your viewport. You have to view them as proxies, like basically a substitute, and the what you would see is just a box. So you might have a tree, And the only thing you can see is like just a bounding box of where it's sitting, because you can't display all that. And so that is, I think, the appeal of Clarice at the time. And the other thing that it could do was that it was really fast at scattering stuff.
Which
like,
Unreal does amazing as well.
yeah, so you could in Clarice scatter a ton of grass and a ton of trees and everywhere, and you could do it very quickly. I don't know how much the industry, like as far as generalists picked up, but I know matte painters really liked it. So like 3D matte painters loved it because it wasn't too. It also wasn't too hard to learn either. It was actually really great. But I do feel like when Unreal, I had an interest in Clarice. Actually,
You didn't do a scene in Clarice?
Yes, I did.
For
And that's
what?
why for that one project we did.
Oh, for the ghost main thing.
Yeah. So I did a shot in there. I learned it. I really, really, really liked it. I wouldn't say I was an expert, but that's why I know about it. And then, Unreal came out. I'm like, oh, okay, we just use this.
That shot from Ghostman could have been done in Unreal so easily nowadays when you think about it.
Yeah. It still would take a long time to render though. So that's the thing. Like you could lay out everything and you could do your iterations faster, right? So because you could see lighting and you could see the trees. Like in Maya, when your scene gets that heavy, like basically the only thing I would be looking at, I don't know if Unreal killed Clarice at all. I think, I mean, for me, I lost interest in Clarice. I don't know what.
But you lost interest partially because of that.
Absolutely, but I can't make a statement like that. That's how everyone else felt, right? That's how I felt. But in Maya, like if you're doing like something with trees, you just look at your scene and you just see like, oh yeah, here's my mountain, and then my trees are also little cubes like this, and I would really never know if that looked good. Because I can't tell, you're just looking at boxes and you're like, okay, I guess that's supposed to look good. And you can't see your scene until you actually hit render. And then the render, if it's billions of poly, it would take a few hours, and then it would take a few hours just to see like what it looks like. Whereas Clarice kind of, got rid of that. But then Unreal really got rid of that completely, right? With the nanite and all that stuff. So
The nanite stuff it's just something else.
yeah, nanite is insane. It's amazing.
So you see here, I'm going to get rid of this because I got to funnel a bunch of these edges, and I could use more detail underneath this thing to sharpen that. And I have all of these guys that I don't want to funnel into that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start bringing them up here like so.
You're super intuitive when you read topo.
I only function intuitively. Like I don't think about anything. I'm such a freaking airhead. My entire life is based on instinct. Yeah.
We are like ASM to listen to. Oh, that's nice. Thank you. And then another comment. I went from drawing into 3D and now I'm old. I wish I made practical effects. I think everyone feels old. Okay, I'm learning new things all the time. I always feel old. I actually started drawing originally, and then I went to 3D.
Tran draws great.
I don't think so. But
She draws amazing.
oh, this is a good technique. You can GPU cache your heavy assets for re-topo, so it doesn't affect performance. I know what you're talking about. I've actually done it, but then I realized it's still fine. I didn't do it anymore. I think the delay is whenever I use Quaddraw, it's not the mesh that's bringing in. It's just literally the tool itself.
It's because it's snapping. It's shrink wrapping it after every draw you do. Draw, is that how you would say it? After every click you do, it's reprojecting the model, and the higher the geometry, just the slower it gets. But it's not the high res model at all. it's doing a fine job with that.
Let's see. Me too. I still keep a sketchbook, even if I don't draw often. I think I'm always learning. You know what I'm actually doing right now? I'm actually taking a class at Gnomon. So since I'm a teacher, I can choose to take a class. I don't really take advantage of that because I don't want to be in a classroom. But I don't have time. But this class I'm taking, I really wanted to learn, which is it's Niagara for Unreal, and I want to be forced to learn. But unfortunately, I'm a terrible student. Like I don't do my homework. I'm like a F student in that class, so I feel kind of bad being like that terrible student. But it's actually a really good class. But I always feel like, you know, it was my, I'm getting older. I'm still learning stuff. Like, does it ever end? It never ends. You're always going to be learning, whether you start it now or later.
You're still going to get old.
Yeah.
So now it's up to you. Do you want to get old and know that thing, or do you want to just get old and wish you had learned it?
Yeah. So some of the students that we have at Gnomon, some of them are very young. Some of them are older too, though. Some, in their 20s, 30s, and sometimes even above that, and they actually do fine. I actually think sometimes that they're older, they're really a lot more serious about their education. So there's never a too late thing to like start anything. Yeah.
Did somebody say we're the AM channel?
No, ASMR.
What is that?
Oh, you don't know ASMR?
No.
ASMR is like, what does that stand for? Let me search it up. Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. It's really popular on YouTube, where it's like videos of like, I mean, you've watched those like restoration channels, right? And
audio therapy.
Yeah. I guess it's like audio therapy. Which class am I taking for Niagara? There's only one. It's Unreal VFX. It's an online course, and that's why I'm taking it, because I don't want to be on campus. And that's open for everyone. Actually, a lot of people in that class, they are professionals. So they're, there's professionals from different backgrounds, and they're already learning something new. Some of them are coming, it sounds like, from the film industry. So it's pretty cool. I'm very excited to be in it, even though I'm a shitty student. so yeah.
Oh, another thing is, if anybody's from Seattle, we're going to be in Seattle, or I'm going to be in Seattle. Are you coming to Seattle, Tran?
How can I go to Seattle? I have to work on this thing.
So does that mean you're not going?
Probably not. I also don't like airplanes.
So Seattle International Film Festival, it's one of the bigger film festivals. So The Voice in the Hollow, our previous film, just got accepted into that, which is pretty cool. We've known for a while, but we weren't allowed to announce it until yesterday. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other cool thing is Jordan Peele's company shared our film today. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
Let's see.
Right now, I'm fixing like some of the stuff that I saw kind of wrong when I was going through this. I'm like, oh.
So you can see we're just sharpening up these areas, making sure that, again, we can't over rely on displacements. This stuff sucks. I've been catching up. Like I usually, last year I was watching 1 to 2 movies a day every day, and I have a pretty absurd Blu-ray collection, because I want to buy everything. I don't like streaming it, and I haven't been able to watch a lot of movies because of this and The Voice in the Hollow and whatever. So I'm trying to catch up on some of the slower stuff. So particularly like stuff from the 50s and 60s. And it's great to watch. So I've been watching like a lot of the Hitchcock stuff lately, and I'll do that while I'm doing the UV. So I just watched Marnie, which is I don't know how I feel about it.
Why? Oh, is that the one you were?
Well, like when you know the backstory about it, so it's basically about this guy who forces this woman to marry him, or else he's gonna report her to the police because she's a thief. And the woman who plays Marnie is this woman called Tippy. I forget her last name.
Oh, she's famous.
She's super famous. She's the main actress from The Birds. But so you watch a movie and you're like, okay, this guy's forcing this woman to marry her to save herself. Cool, that's fine. But once you find out that apparently behind the scenes, Alfred Hitchcock was sexually harassing this actress during the filming of this movie and trying to pressure her to sleep with him to save her career, the movie takes a whole different kind of meaning, and it's kind of gross in a way. You're like, oh, that's fucked up. And then
that doesn't age very well.
That doesn't age very well, no.
Because oh, that's right. She ends up with the guy too, right?
She ends up with the guy. Like he rapes her in the movie. It's pretty messed up. And but they suggest, they don't show it because it's the time, but it's very clear what happened. And what's messed up about it is this Tippy lady did not sleep with Hitchcock apparently, and he back in the days, actresses and actors would sign like 6 movie deals with these directors, and he basically just like put her career on ice for 7 years. He paid her a salary, but he refused to let her be in any movies, basically, keeping her frozen during her prime career days, whatever that is. But
it's a pretty famous thing. I think you can. I even heard about it.
Yeah, well, there's a document. There's a not a document. There is a book called The Girl, but there's also a really good movie about this called The Girl, which is, I think it's on Amazon or HBO. I think it's on Amazon, but it's pretty good.
It's funny as comment. Wow, the stream got intense too quick. Sorry.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Let's see. It's back up. On a lighter note, ASMR is about people licking microphones. Okay. I know that's a joke. I didn't know this. So your coworker from Blizzard is in that class. Okay, that's cool. I am a bad student. I'm such a terrible student.
Yeah, the stream got intense. Yeah, sorry about that. But anyway, that's some Hitchcock history.
Okay, and recent movies you watch. You've been watching. You like watch some dark stuff. And congrats on the thing. Thank you. And yeah, you can't tell which part of the story is in the movie in real life. But I think that stuff is interesting, though. And then Bobby R. Thanks for joining. Yes, you're joining us in Re-topo Fun. Did you watch Triangle of...
I have not. What I did read recently was the Tarantino book, the cinema speculation book. That's really awesome. I recommend, if you guys are like cinema lovers, to read that. It's really good. It's basically him reviewing movies from the 60s and 70s that influenced him, and yeah, it's really good. All right, so you can see, so we just attached that piece to this whole thing. Now we got to figure out how the hell we're going to funnel this thing. So let's see what we could do. We could probably connect that to that. This, I don't like that one. Why is this not giving me a...
Oh, you mean trying to slice that?
Yeah, it's not letting me slice it.
Because probably the connection where it ends up, it's like difficult. You can...
Yeah, I sometimes do that. Just break it.
Yeah, break it somewhere.
So if that happens, what I'll try to do, so I could see what's going on here. It doesn't like that. So maybe what I'm going to do is not connect it there. I'm going to try to shift this stuff over here. And then run this guy here. And then this looks a little messy, so we'll just hold down Shift to feather this stuff out. All right, so let's fix this here.
It's kind of mesmerizing. Watch. I don't know. I guess there's something appealing about it. We are in an age where like
People like to watch people do really boring shit.
yeah. Well, you watch like those restoration videos.
I love restoration
but
videos.
They were pretty hypnotizing. I don't know if anyone like in the audience watches that stuff, but Miguel will play some, and it'd be like, I'm restoring this old antique thing, and I normally don't watch that, and then I get hypnotized very quickly. So like I feel like Re-topo is like somehow falls in that category, which is kind of makes sense, but it's like really surprising when I think about it, because I think a lot of like when I talk to students and they start Re-topoing, I don't think anyone enjoys it. So, but you know, it can be enjoyable, I think.
It can be enjoyable.
Hey, Lord Luigi Riggs. I really like that name. Oh, look, Bobby R. I saw your work on 3D Arts magazine cover. Congrats. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we were super happy about that. And there you go. Look at that. It all fit. So let's get this thing over here. Yeah, when they told us we had the magazine, with the magazine cover, we knew we had the article, but we didn't know we were going to get the cover until the very end. And oh man, I was so happy. I think I found out like the day before my birthday or something. Remember, Tran?
Yeah, you were super happy.
Yeah,
it's nice, really nice. So we're very grateful.
This is our second film, and both of them have gotten the cover of 3D World, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So this part here, I don't like it. It might be okay. What it is to me is this space is too big.
Yeah, it's like distorted.
So what I might do is just bring this in here.
Whenever I look at that, my instinct is just to cut the poly. I keep like in my mind, trying to draw like a line across.
Yeah, the problem is it'd be very simple if I could just run it up, but then that goes into the danger zone here.
Wouldn't this 5-star point around the eye be a problem later? I don't know if it's an eye. What is that?
That's not an eye. That's just like a hole.
Yeah, it just has a lot of holes. It's like uncomfortable to look at. What is that term?
When people are grossed out by holes?
I am grossed out by holes. I didn't know that there was a term for that. But when I was a kid, if I saw something with a lot of holes, it would creep me out. Try trypophobia.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, but
triple or triple? I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Tripping. Tripping phobia.
I think there has to be another way of running that. So let's just take a look and see.
What's funny is I do have phobias, right? So like I don't like like that's, you know, this is common sense. Probably most people don't like this. I don't like looking at things that are like really gruesome or very bloody or like gross. I like looking at nice, clean, fluffy things. But the moment I have to make something, it's like my brain switches off, and it's okay with me, right? So obviously, this was made by the sculpt was made by very talented artists. Is Sedan, how do you pronounce his name?
Sedan Vague.
Sedan Vague. Really amazing. But the texturing might fall into my lap, and normally I wouldn't want to look at something like that. But as soon as I have to make it, it's like my brain shuts off the part that is like human or something.
Yeah, there was a time where the thought of re-topologizing someone else's model would have driven me so crazy. I would have felt so offended. But now I just don't care at all. It's like, okay, we got to get our movie done. Let's just do it. Whatever it takes.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't care either. I'm just saying, like, normally if I saw something this gross, I would be grossed out. But as soon as it's like I have to work on it, it's okay somehow. I don't know if anyone else feels like that. Like the moment it's like my art assignment, it's okay. It could be gross. So, yeah.
So what I'll do here.
Oh, you have that. Where does that thin line lead to?
Hold on one second. All right, that'll do that. Oh. So what I might have to do here.
Retopo is therapeutic. I agree. Blender versus Maya Focus. You guys are all making jokes. You guys know at this point, we've become regulars, or there's always going to be a Blender question that pops up somewhere. And my stance is the same. I think Blender is really awesome. While Miguel's doing that, you're like deep in concentration. I am.
All right, so let's connect this here.
Gonna improve the textures of this guy.
So what I'll probably do here, like you can see when I have like a bunch of these lines here, the best thing to do here, let's just put these points close by. It is starting to get slow.
Yeah, I can see that. For me, at that point, I'd probably just disconnect parts.
Yeah, I'm probably going to do that.
Because all of a sudden, like you find that something that should take you like 10 minutes is taking you 30 minutes to do.
Yeah. Well, one of the main things I'll do now is I'll just come over here. I think the head is going to be the hardest thing. I think the rest of it will come together fairly quickly. You can see we're like in the tiny little areas here. Like this is the main stuff. So, all right, so let's get this. So I'll just connect that to that. Position it, position this. So here we're going to need another split. We're going to need another split here.
Oops. You have a comment. And you could turn off construction history.
Yeah.
That does, well, I delete history a lot while I'm doing that. But usually for me, what speeds it up is just disconnecting it from everything else.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to connect this and I'll do that. Yeah, I do delete the construction history. I'll do that as well. Oh. So here I'll just start attaching these guys. So I have auto weld turned on. So just by touching these two, they will weld together. Just got to be careful. Always make sure you check all your topology, your vertices, and make sure that something you thought welded actually did weld before you go in and bring this all back into ZBrush, because you could make a big mess. So I'll put that one there. So you can see this is going to look really messy here, but that's okay, because I just use the soft selection and just kind of smooth that all out. So I'll just hold down B. I got my soft selection and just kind of relax this whole thing. Let's take a look. So I figured this guy's going to take me a solid week to do. So I've been working on it for about a day and a half to get the head. I think UVs will be quick, but everything has to be modeled in. That's the part that's taking so long. So let's take a look at the rest of the model. It's just madness.
Yeah. The wing's gonna be some work.
I am going to try some of the auto re-topology stuff on certain parts. The face, I need to have a ton of control. But these areas here, I'm going to see what I can get. Just looks freaking vicious.
Oh.
Good Lord.
Gee. It looks great. Yeah. This person's really amazing. There's the comment. I saw online virtual production classes over at Gnomon. Plan on taking these soon. Super solid. Well, I'm taking that online class in Unreal for Niagara VFX, and I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. What's nice about like, I guess you could try learning on your own, but for me, like, I took the class because I just want to ask somebody there, right? I don't want to dig on a forum when I don't know why something is working. You just have someone going, "Oh, it's this." And you're like, "Oh, okay." Then your answers are answered right away. Yeah. Wow.
So I just got rid of the construction history. Let's go back to this.
How dense is that mesh that you're, not the mesh you're retopoing, but what's the supply count of your topology? Are you instancing too? You are, right?
I'm instancing, so I don't know if that's correct. Let me see.
Oh, you can't really tell when you have Make Live.
Yeah, I think it's like 9,000 faces. Yeah, 9,000 faces for half the head. So it'll probably be like 30, 40,000 for the head alone.
You have a question in chat.
Yeah, I am. I am teaching it. Yeah, I'm a little freaked out about teaching it because not freaked out. That's not the right word, but whenever you're teaching a new class, it
Takes a lot of effort.
takes a lot of work to get it ready.
Yeah.
And right now, what we do not have is just time.
But you do, I think you do pretty well though. It depends on the person. Like for me, I need so much preparation.
No, but I am putting preparation into it. That's the thing.
Well, you are, but the other problem is you speak well in front of people. I don't actually. I mean, I'm speaking well. I'm speaking on this thing, but I also have you sitting next to me, so it makes it easier. But like, I remember when I first started teaching my first day, I was like really, really nervous. Like just sitting in front of a crowd, like I have like stage fright.
Yeah, but everybody has stage fright.
Yeah. You don't look like you have stage fright.
No, I have total stage fright. So I'm just going to create another piece here. And then just figure out how to connect it later. So I'm just going to jump over to one of these guys. So it's going to be crazy fast. You could see how much faster that is just because it's not connected to the rest of the head. And I'm just going to start figuring out the topology for this thing.
You have a couple other questions.
What's the other question?
We have a few.
Is cinematic shot production class looked F2? No.
Not at all. Right.
No, it's not at all. It's mostly sequencer and like planning out shots. You know, it's a lot of the stuff that we talked about in the making of the voice and the hollow stuff. The difference is, you could ask questions as we're doing that. I guess you could do that here, but
well, this is we're kind of just hanging out, showing stuff. It's not very structured.
Yeah.
Whereas like in the classroom, it's very it's a class.
Much more structured.
It's very structured. So, thank you, Bobby R. You seem like cool.
Professor. Yeah, thank you. That's very nice.
Yeah, thank you. So I practice. We get like crits, right? So like, well, when I first was teaching first day, you have like another teacher overlooking at you, making sure you're doing a good job, and stuff like that. So always working on it.
Tran's always been a good teacher. She just needed the confidence in herself, but she's very good.
Thank you, Miguel. Miguel is also a very good teacher. I learned a lot from Miguel. And I also learned from Max, because he's a very good teacher too. He's my boss.
Oh. Give me 1 second, guys.
I appreciate you guys taking time learning a lot from us. Well, I'm glad you feel like you're learning something. So you could always ask questions, and we'll try to answer them the best that we can. When we started like the Voice in the Hollow, it was like version 5, and it was like a preview where you're not supposed to use it for production, but we were just using it anyway.
We totally should not have used it.
Yeah, so like.
But you know what? It's fine because the first couple of things we did anyway looked like crap. So even though all our lighting broke, we're still not going to use that lighting anyway.
Yeah. So we had lighting constantly break. We also were in that situation at the time where we couldn't use grass. If you guys remember, like very first release, the preview release, that's not supposed to be for production, didn't support like grass well or like any vegetation with like small amount of detail because it would be really noisy and flicker. So we were like, I guess we just have dirt, dirt and rocks in our story. So we eventually did put some trees in, but it's kind of just, we don't really have that much trees, and it had a lot to do with how we started the project. Yeah. Let's see. Tran, doesn't using a pen slow your speed navigating? No.
I use a pen also.
Yeah, actually, like if I start using a mouse, it's like I never used a mouse in my life. I have, but I hardly use it. So when I start using the mouse, like I look like I don't know how to use a computer. I've just gotten used to it, which is maybe not a good thing because you can't just have a tablet everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, it is good for hands. For sure. Right? Like I know some people get like problems with their wrists with the mouse.
We know people very well that have had carpal tunnel.
Yeah,
that stuff's serious.
It's super serious. There's a few people that I know that have that, and it's like really crippling. If you're an artist, right, you really need your hands.
Yeah, that stuff is for real.
It is. So for anyone here, if you're starting to have wrist problems, take care of it right away. Don't wait, because most of the time it's like, oh, most regret is like, oh, waiting too long to deal with your hand problems.
Yeah, but the problem is once you start realizing that your wrists are getting messed up, like that means they're already kind of messed up.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if I used the mouse a lot before, and I did have wrist problems, and when I switched to a tablet, it became easier. Watching you guys is like getting a bachelor in general 3D production. Oh, that's cool. Thank you, Chatty. This is what defines a pro using a tablet. Yeah. I couldn't afford a tablet when I first started doing 3D. And as soon as I could afford it, that's what my first paycheck was like, I got a tablet.
I'll tell you a funny story. There's a good friend of mine, Kaj Hilton, that works at Weta. And
he worked it. He's not there anymore, but he was there.
He's not there. Okay, so he was at Weta for many, many years, but we worked together at Luma Pictures, and I love this guy. And when he first started working there, they started handing out the Wacom tablets, and I got like the Intuos, and they gave him like the crappy one, like the bamboo equivalent, right?
Why did they give him the bad one?
Just because they didn't have them. They're like, oh, we'll get you a better one soon. And he was like, I'm not going to use it because if I start using it, then they'll never give me the good one.
Yeah, it's going to be stuck with the bamboo.
He refused to use it, so he was doing all his sculpting. And Kaj is one of the best sculptors I've ever met. He's just besides being one of the nicest, coolest guys, he's an amazing sculptor. So this crazy bastard is doing all his sculpting with a mouse. Jump 2-3 years that he's still using this fucking mouse. They never gave him his Wacom. So he just got so good at sculpting with a mouse that to this day,
he's famous.
From what I've heard,
he's famous.
At Weta, he was the only guy that would use ZBrush. To this day, this is now 17 years later, he's still using the freaking mouse to sculpt in ZBrush.
I think he's famous for that. That's what I think I've met Kaj a few times. I don't know him well. But I know he's famous for being a mouse user in the sculpting program.
And he's, again, we're talking about someone like, okay, you use a mouse, whatever, but he's phenomenally good. That's what makes it so funny is
no, it's like someone like that, again, uses ZBrush and does it all with mouse, or like, and it looks amazing and it gets done fast and on time.
Yeah, so
and then like just the same way if a painter was doing that with a mouse and it was done quickly and it looked amazing.
Yeah.
I don't even know how you do that. Like there's no pressure sensitivity. You just like click, click, click.
He's
click.
He's controlling the pressure
And
sensitivity.
you're just like tapping it. Like, what are you doing? Oh, look who it is. Nicholas Collins.
Nicholas Collins.
Hello, sir.
What's going on?
Yeah, legendary. See,
Yeah, you see, Nicholas knows. So you know this story too, right, Nicholas? You've heard about the legendary Kaj.
Yeah, he's a legend. Just simply for something like that.
We used to rip on each other so hard at Luma. We used to just joke around with each other so much that HR one time someone walked into the office, our office together, and they pulled Kaj aside, or somebody in the room, and they pulled him aside to see if they were being bullied, because we would just joke with each other so hard. Yeah, I missed that guy. He's the best.
Here's a response. I don't know actually, but it's amazing. Okay. I've seen his work. He is like really, really incredible. I aspire to be as good of a sculptor as he.
Yeah.
And let's look at what you do with your mouse, students. I can't even use the mouse. Students use the mouse more than me, and they're better at it than me. Sometimes, like, my tablet will break, then I have to switch to mouse. And my first disclaimer is like, I'm going to look very computer illiterate. Please excuse me. I actually know how to use the software because I literally don't. I look like I don't know what I'm doing when I switch to the mouse.
Nicholas, how you guys doing over there at Blur? Let's see how this is going here.
I'm adding some stuff to my...
Busy. You guys are always busy.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Let's see. Oh my, it's like already 3:00.
Yeah. So let's pull this out for a second. Let's just take a look. Let's put this guy on here. So again, we got to get all of that stuff in the geometry. So inside of Unreal, we can't depend on the displacements for a lot. So everything has to be in there.
We have a question here before we wrap. Can you zoom out? Can you show the whole thing again?
The whole thing?
Yeah. So that's the part that's Miguel's retopoed if you just joined. And then show like the mesh that you're retopoing. You have so much work to do.
Yeah, it's painful. If anybody wants to volunteer, where is this from? It's from our project. That's what this is all about. This is the evil moths that are gonna eat our little guys. So it's...
Yeah, and if I can show it again.
I'll pull this guy. So just picture this little guy getting chased by those evil moths, and they're trying to eat them because they're made out of fabric. So this is caught, and then Tran, you want to show Mayo one last time before we go?
Yeah, let's do that. I'm just loading it all up. My computer is going to slow down once I turn on shadows. I have too many UDIMs here. There we are. I'm going to hold still because I know it takes a moment to clean up. So this is Mayo.
That's a little Mayo. So he's not the hero of the story, but the story is called "There's Something Wrong with Mayo." So
well, it's Ka's the main character, but he's the second.
He's the princess.
Yeah, they're best friends.
Yeah.
So.
The hammer pants. Yeah, show those hammer pants. Show those hammer pants. You were here when we were coming up with them hammer pants, huh?
Yeah. It's got those.
Zoom into it. and let it sit. I zoom in much closer.
I don't like how it looks. That's why I don't want to get
Oh, I see.
closer. So
So this guy's color palette is very much inspired by Planet of the Apes.
so his buttons right here
Yeah, very much.
are like the patterns on professor's jacket or vest,
Yeah.
right? So those are buttons.
So it's Planet of the Apes meets Beaker meets I don't know what.
Yeah, it's him. Characters look amazing. Thanks, Ethan.
Ethan Clark.
You like the color? Thank you. Oh, chatty. I can't believe I missed a stream with Megan from Marvis. I was shooting a short doc for my grad project in Village. So
Don't feel bad. I even missed it.
yeah. Well, and you can always look back. I guess the nice thing would have been be able to ask her questions because she's an expert.
Master. Yeah.
Because she works there, so she would knows the inside and out.
Yeah, I got to send them an email just to say thank you because I was kind of absent that day.
You were there, but you just had
I was there,
problems,
yeah.
and then you had to log off.
Yeah, I was at the Florida Film Festival.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's it, guys. So re-topologizing sucks. Mayo is coming along. So by next week, he should be done. Where's his glove? Is his glove on there?
Yeah, it's just white. And then this is temporary hair geo. It's going to be replaced with real hair.
So he's got gloves. These gloves are inspired by, let me see if I can find it. Give me 1 second.
He's a funny looking guy.
Where is it?
Who is it that inspired it?
I'll show you. So when I was writing this is a band. It's a punk band from Miami that I used to love these guys when I was a kid. And look at their album cover.
Load.
But you see, it's the glove. So that's an homage to Load. So the little gloves, wherever they are, there they are.
Yeah.
Zoom in again.
On the glove?
Yeah.
Well, there's no textures.
It doesn't matter. He's got punk rock gloves. Yeah.
That was Miguel's idea. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But it will fit with the story, though, I think.
Yeah, because some of the music I want to try to put in some punk rock into this. So yeah. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Nicholas, thanks for tuning in. Chatty, Bobby, Vazels, that's a tough one. Ethan, ooh, so many. But thank you guys. Woat, Netbug, Ginger Bear, so many of you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, Nicholas, we got to hang out one of these days, man. We never hang. So let's do it. All right, guys.
We'll be here next week.
Yeah, if you want to follow our work, you could follow it on Instagram at Half Empty Studios. Check it out. And yeah, if you go on Instagram and you can see the Monkey Paw shared our thing, give a like to that post on their side so they see that people are watching it. Because let's call that hint number 1. Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you for talking to us. I actually am really enjoying chatting with you guys.
Yeah. Later, guys.
Bye.